Welcome to the WACO Experience, an American story.
We, the people.
With your host, D. Scott Smith.
In order to form a more perfect union.
Interviews with leaders in business, government, and nonprofit organizations.
Promote the general welfare.
Jobs, products and services, and infrastructure for strong communities. Secure
the blessings of liberty.
The WACO Experience is an American story, a story of communities across America. It is your story.
And so for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortune, and our sacred honor. Today on the WACO Experience, an American story, we dedicate this episode to the Declaration of Independence on this, the 250th anniversary of our country's founding. I've never been fond of referring to this day as the 4th of July. I always say Independence Day. I'm your host, D. Scott Smith. Each week I bring you stories from leaders in business, government, and nonprofit organizations. You can learn more about this program, our sponsors, and the podcast version of this show by going to our website, thewacoexperience.com. This program is made possible by sponsors. Quality Cabinets. Your home is an extension of your personality. Smooth, clean, and elegant. Quality Cabinets is the perfect choice for the modern aesthetic. Visit the Design Center at 720 New Dallas Highway in Waco. Quality Cabinets, modern design, everyday comfort. Call 254-744-0938 and visit the website qualitycabinetstx.com. Christian Family Law Solutions is a Christian-based, solutions-focused mediation provider. They help their clients avoid costly litigation and remain focused on the most important priorities in their lives, creating paths for peaceful resolution, not brokenness. Call 254-777-5171 and on the web, 1c6.law. PresentGifting.com. Imagine never forgetting an event for those important people in your life. Because relationships are important and moments matter. Present Gifting is a free service to send you gentle reminders of birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, and more. Register today at presentgifting.com. Heart of Texas TV Indoor Billboards. My friend J.B. James Battle, former helicopter pilot for the U.S. Army, and his team at Hot TV amplify your brand where it matters most. Be seen where your customers eat, work, shop, and play. Learn more on the web, hotdigitaltv.com. Waco Independent Film Festival, named one of the coolest film festivals in the world. The Waco Independent Film Festival is celebrating its 10th anniversary, July 16th to 19th. WacoIndy.com. Ray's Automotive Specialist. My car is my baby. When it needs service, I call Ray. Certified technicians, Christian values. Domestic or import, Ray has you covered. Call 254-495-7810 and on the web at fixmycarray.com. Today we're going to listen to the Declaration of Independence. In just over 1,300 words, this document changed world history. There were 56 signers who were committing treason by adding their names to that parchment. We will learn what happened to a few of those who pledged their lives, fortunes, and honor. The freedom and liberty we enjoy in this country was obtained and maintained by those willing to sacrifice. On this program, I interviewed Marine and combat veteran Dave Welsh of Cactus Rose Ranch, where he runs Healing Heroes with Horses at no cost to veterans and first responders. He and others returned from armed combat. Many did not. It is not uncommon for veterans to say that they would trade places with those who died so they could return and be with their families. A counselor asked, "What do you think they would say?" Exactly the same thing. Those who returned need to live their lives to honor fallen comrades. They made the sacrifice and did not return so that others might come home to enjoy liberty, freedom, and their families. This episode of the WACO Experience, an American story, I pause from the usual interview format. We'll look at the history around the Declaration of Independence, circumstances surrounding its formation, and celebrate this 250th anniversary of freedom. I was a boy of 14 when we celebrated the bicentennial of our country. I had been privileged to travel with my family to visit Washington, D.C. in 1975. The immense meaning of the monuments, memorials, and museums was not lost on my youth. It may have been this experience where I became a fan of history. Standing at the foot of Lincoln at his memorial and reading the inscription chiseled into the marble behind the colossal seated president says, "In this temple, as in the hearts of the people, for whom he saved the Union, the memory of Abraham Lincoln is enshrined forever." Chiseled into the walls are his inaugural address and speech at Gettysburg. In the rotunda of the Jefferson Memorial, a portion of a letter written to Dr. Benjamin Rush gives us these words from Thomas Jefferson, who was the principal author of the Declaration of Independence, saying, "I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man." I walked into the National Archives and looked through protective glass at the original document. Each of those 56 signatures represented treason against the Crown of Great Britain. Broadcaster Paul Harvey recorded an episode of his radio show talking about the signers of this Declaration of Independence. The written words to mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor were not those of an empty platitude. Many lost their livelihoods, families, land, possessions, and their lives in defending this Declaration of Independence. Francis Lewis, a wealthy merchant from New York, added his signature to the Declaration. In the fall of 1776, British light dragoons targeted his estate on Long Island, completely destroying his home, burned his personal library, and captured his 61-year-old wife, Elizabeth. She was thrown into an unheated military prison without a bed or adequate food. She was finally freed in exchange for British prisoners months later. Her health was broken. She died in 1779 as a direct result of her captivity, and Lewis spent the remainder of his life in financial ruin. John Hart, whom they called Honest John, was a farmer and legislator in his 60s when he signed the document. In late 1776, British and Hessian troops came to New Jersey specifically hunting for him. Hart was forced to flee into the Sauerland Mountains, hiding in caves and forests, while his wife was on her deathbed. The British completely destroyed his farm, livestock, and mills. His 13 children were forced to scatter across the region for safety. When Hart finally returned home after the British retreated, his wife had died. His property was ruined and his health was broken. He died in 1779 before witnessing the end of the war. Richard Stockton was a respected lawyer and judge. After signing the Declaration, he quickly returned to New Jersey to evacuate his family. A loyalist neighbor betrayed his location, and British forces dragged Stockton out of bed in the middle of the night. He became the only signer captured specifically because he signed the Declaration. Stockton was subjected to brutal treatment, starved and kept in an unheated New York jail. His estate was thoroughly ransacked. The physical torture broke his spirit and health, forcing him to accept a humiliating parole package just to be released. He returned home an invalid and died in poverty in 1781. We mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortune, and our sacred honor. There is a replica of the Vietnam Memorial which travels the country. When it came to my town, I made the short pilgrimage to find my uncle. He was a Marine and did not return. He volunteered for a third tour, telling his family he was a Marine and this was his job. A Vietnam veteran volunteer at the memorial helped me to find panel 05W, line 114, and Staff Sergeant Richard Thomas Baker, killed in a helicopter crash February 18, 1971. I keep the rubbing of his name as a reminder of the sacrifices others have made on my behalf. I stood at ground zero looking into the pools of water marking where the two towers of the World Trade Center stood in Manhattan. Around the pool is a bronze railing. The names of the 2,983 who lost their lives that day are inscribed on that railing. As I stood there at the reflecting pool, remembering the events of that day, I noticed many single white roses in the bronze railing. Each morning, staff and volunteers checked the names of those who died and place a white rose at their name on the day of their birth. This is an act of remembrance for the innocent who died in that attack. It is also a public symbol of how we choose to care for each other. We do this because it is the right thing to do. As humans, we are not and never will be perfect. Mistakes in judgment or individuals bent on personal gain may provide a stain, yet in the whole, we can look at this experiment in representative democracy as a success. We have a long way to go and have come a long way. If you've not read the contents of the Declaration, we have the opportunity today to hear the words consecrated and dedicated this day 250 years ago. You may not grasp the full context of their lives, what measures have been taken to remedy the condition of the residents. The language will sound obscure at points. Take in the whole of this declaration. The beginning of this show, the WACO Experience, an American Story, I intermingled the preamble to the U.S. Constitution. The Declaration of Independence was just that, putting King George on notice that his treatment of the citizens of the colonies was unacceptable, that attempts at resolution were of no accord, and that a new form of government was necessary and indeed required as a matter of conscience. The Constitution laid out the plan of government. As we focus today on the Declaration of Independence, I do not want you to miss an important aspect. It is stated, governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves. People often avoid conflict. We choose to suffer in silence rather than to come face to face with the person, people, or government at fault. This is an essential facet in the Declaration. They are saying, we have had enough. You have abused us, stolen from us, murdered us, and we will no longer look the other way. Choosing to separate from Great Britain was not the easy path, however, as it was written and affirmed by their 56 signatures. In the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another. Representing the 13 colonies, the Declaration of Independence was drafted, approved, and signed. All across the country, and indeed American citizens around the world, are celebrating this 250th anniversary of independence. We will have barbecues, picnics, play games with family and friends. We'll play music, dance, and sing. As it gets dark, children at heart will light sparklers and wave them around as the sparks fly and scatter. Soon there will be booms from above, flashes of fireworks, and echo of the days that surrounded the Declaration of Independence. War was already at hand. April 19, 1775, initiated by the Battle of Lexington and Concord, the conflict from the beginning to the conclusion on September 3, 1783, formalized with the signing of the Treaty of Paris, when Great Britain recognized the sovereignty of the United States. It had been 8 years and 5 months. President John F. Kennedy, in his speech at Rice University on September 12, 1962, is a fine representation of the spirit of America through the ages. JFK said, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Americans will not choose the easy route. We will make mistakes in judgment. Certain individuals will choose personal gain over public good. However, in the long run and in the aggregate, we choose to do the best we can do and to do the right things. We as a people will examine what we have done and what we plan to do." Engineer and efficiency expert W. Edwards Deming said, "It is not enough to do your best. You must know what to do and then do your best." I am an optimistic person. I look for the best. The essence of this radio show is to highlight the good that we do together in the face of obstacles, some of our making, others completely out of our control. In June 2026, flooding in Waco brought out the best in our community. TV news from KWTX told the story of Carla Donaldson. The flash flood caught her car. Swept into the rushing waters, she feared for her life. Citizen Mike Larry Perez used a garden hose as a safety line and jumped into those dangerous waters to rescue Ms. Donaldson. When the need arises, we will choose the hard and dangerous route. Mr. Perez risked his own safety to save another citizen, not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. The WACO experience is an American story. I highlight the good we do here in our community, and I guarantee you, this is the good you will find in communities across the country. I'm blessed to be here, and I will not take for granted the freedom I enjoy, which was paid for by the sacrifices of many. It is my hope that the resolve of the citizens 250 years ago will be kindled in your heart. In Congress, July 4th, 1776. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind require that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when the long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations that having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, first let the facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused to assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time, after such disillusions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these United States for that purpose, obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migration hither, and raising the condition of new appropriations of land. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent upon his will alone for their tenure in their office and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected multitudes of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and to eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislators. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond the seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in the neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our sea, ravaged our coast, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy, scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy of the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens, taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections among us. He has excited domestic insurrections among us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We, therefore, the representatives of these United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world by the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, and that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the states of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states we have the full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortune, and our sacred honor.
The WACO Experience, an American Story, is a production of D. Scott Smith Company, all rights reserved. Thank you for listening.